Welcome to the Executive Order Audio Library, where we read Trump's executive orders in full so you can stay informed about what they contain. If you find this resource helpful, please like this video so others can find it too. To stay on top of future executive orders, please click subscribe and allow notifications so you can be alerted when new recordings are available. This is a reading of Executive Order 14290, ending taxpayer subsidization of biased media. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1. Purpose. National Public Radio, NPR, and the Public Broadcasting Service, PBS, receive taxpayer funds through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CPB. Unlike in 1967, when the CPB was established, today, the media landscape is filled with abundant, diverse, and innovative news options. Government funding of news media in this environment is not only outdated and unnecessary, but corrosive to the appearance of journalistic independence. At the very least, Americans have the right to expect that if their tax dollars fund public broadcasting at all, they fund only fair, accurate, unbiased, and nonpartisan news coverage. No media outlet has a constitutional right to taxpayer subsidies, and the government is entitled to determine which categories of activities to subsidize. The CPB's governing statute reflects principles of impartiality. The CPB may not, quote, contribute to or otherwise support any political party. 40 U.S.C. 396 F3. See also 396 E2. The CPB fails to abide by these principles to the extent it subsidizes NPR and PBS. Which viewpoints NPR and PBS promote does not matter. What does matter is that neither entity presents a fair, accurate, or unbiased portrayal of current events to taxpaying citizens. I therefore instruct the CPB Board of Directors and all executive departments and agencies to cease federal funding for NPR and PBS. Section 2. Instructions to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. A. The CPB Board shall cease direct funding to NPR and PBS, consistent with my administration's policy, to ensure that federal funding does not support biased and partisan news coverage. The CPB Board shall cancel existing direct funding to the maximum extent allowed by law, and shall decline to provide future funding. B. The CPB Board shall cease indirect funding to NPR and PBS, including by ensuring that licensees and permittees of public radio and television stations, as well as any other recipients of CPB funds, do not use federal funds for NPR and PBS. To effectuate this directive, the CPB Board shall, before June 30, 2025, revise the 2025 Television Community Service Grants General Provisions and Eligibility Criteria, and the 2025 Radio Community Service Grants General Provisions and Eligibility Criteria to prohibit direct or indirect funding of NPR and PBS. To the extent permitted by the 2024 Television Community Service Grants General Provisions and Eligibility Criteria, the 2024 Radio Community Service Grants General Provisions and Eligibility Criteria, and applicable law, the CPB Board shall also prohibit parties subject to these provisions from funding NPR or PBS after the date of this order. In addition, the CPB Board shall take all other necessary steps to minimize or eliminate its indirect funding of NPR and PBS. Section 3. Instructions to other agencies. A. The heads of all agencies shall identify and terminate, to the maximum extent consistent with applicable law, any direct or indirect funding of NPR and PBS. B. After taking the action specified in subsection A of this section, the heads of all agencies shall identify any remaining grants, contracts, or other funding instruments entered into with NPR or PBS, and shall determine whether NPR and PBS are in compliance with the terms of those instruments. In the event of a finding of noncompliance, the head of the relevant agency shall take appropriate steps under the terms of the instrument. C. The Secretary of Health and Human Services shall determine whether the Public Broadcasting Service and National Public Radio or any successor organization are complying with the statutory mandate that, quote, no person shall be subjected to discrimination in employment, on the grounds of race, color, religion, national origin, or sex, 47 U.S.C. 397-15 and 398b. In the event of a finding of noncompliance, the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall take appropriate corrective action. Section 4. Severability. If any provision of this order or the application of any provision to any agency, person, or circumstance is held to be invalid, the remainder of this order and the application of its provisions to any other agencies, persons, or circumstances shall not be affected thereby. Signed, Donald J. Trump, The White House, May 1, 2025. This concludes the reading of Executive Order 14290, ending taxpayer subsidization of biased media. To stay on top of future executive orders, please click subscribe and allow notifications so you can be alerted when new recordings are available.